Have you ever find people in your life that you see that they have this preparation, they do all the work, and suddenly when the opportunity presents to them, they just let it go or wasted all the effort that they have been doing? Or have you ever found some people that they make resolutions every year and they just drop them by the end of February? Well, this is the episode that we are going to start talking today about understanding and this science of self-sabotage, the neurobiology of self-sabotage, and why you keep falling in this trap, understanding that it is more than this willpower. And on the left side, we can observe the different mechanisms that start creating these loops of sabotaging ourselves. One is that our bodies are looking for regulation, they seek homeostasis. The second one is when we start entering into this limbic brain or emotional brain, and it is hijacked by our amygdala because it perceives threat. When we don't know what is going to happen, when we think that we are going to enter into a challenging situation, even though we are looking for that objective or goal, we feel that we are under a threat, and this is what activates the amygdala. Next, what happens? Well, then the manifestations in the body begin and the somatic breaks start happening, raising of cortisol and a lot of hormones and neurotransmitters start being released, and they can depress your immune system, and you can start creating these loops also that are going to develop into a chronic illness. And finally, you have a subconscious loyalty. And I think that this is the most interesting part of the explanation that I'm going to give you. And please stay until the end because this is going to be really amazing to understand why you are loyal to your parents, to your grandparents, to your great grandparents. And this is the ancestral lineage that you are following. And all of these emotional marks, epigenetic marks that you have been passed on and that you need to clean them. And on the right side, we can see all of the benefits that I'm going to explain you when you start breaking the pattern of being in these loops of self-sabotage. First, of course, you reclaim your agency. Second, you create a cognitive reframe. Third, you create micro-step regulations that allow you to keep the direction and to create momentum in your life so that you can arrive to the outcome that you want. And finally, you can create an update, or you suffer an update in your brain. You rewire your brain to create much better predictions based on the confidence that you are gaining from understanding all of these messages. So stay until the end and also look for the link that I'm going to post a little bit later on the notes of the video, where I'm going to give you a guideline that you can acquire for a very, very small amount. That is how I'm going to support myself to make this uh, really informative and knowledge-based, science-based videos. So let's go with the first steps. Self-sabotage is an evolutionary protection mechanism, is not a lack of willpower. We have to understand this and we have to stop blaming ourselves for not having this agency. We all have been into these self-sabotage loops. Some of us break them early, some people take a little more time, but with this, I think you will decodify what is happening in your brain and understand how you can really break from the root these self-sabotage loops. So there is a drive for homeostasis in our evolutionary protection mechanism. The human brain is engineered to prioritize psychological homeostasis, which is an internal equilibrium and familiarity. So this is staying in the comfort zone. And this is far above external growth or achievement. So your brain is designed to keep you in the comfort zone. And why is designed for that? Because it has been evolving under these external threats. When you look for this uncertainty or when you look for these challenges. So success is being seen or represents a dangerous and unmapped territory. That's why you feel threatened. So how does this happen? In four very simple steps. The dissonance loop. The first step is that you have a primary evaluation. Your brain detects conflict between the desire for success and an internalized negative self-image. So this is the contradictory mechanism that is happening within you. Number two, you have an aversive activation state. So this means that you have an acute psychological discomfort and physical tension, and literally you are feeling it in your body. And this starts arising, this starts flaring up within in your body, and this demands an immediate relief. So that's why you look for this comfort zone again, or you start this sabotage cycle, and you start looking for people to blame, you start looking for excuses, you start procrastinating the things that you want to do. Number three, decompression strategy. Procrastination or distraction is deployed, and this is deployed to rapidly reduce the nervous tension and the body tension, of course. And that's why you don't do the things, you don't follow up, you don't have this continuity and discipline to finish the things that you want, even though the objective or the outcome or the goal you have it clearly in your brain, but it's just a mechanism of protection. So let's understand this. And whenever you feel that you are deploying this system of procrastination or distractions or blaming other people, just return and make you aware of these kind of steps. Number four, consonance is restored. The individual returns to the familiar state of struggle, confirming their baseline identity. And this is what happens mainly with these endless resolutions of New Year. And I see that so often with my clients, with friends, and even, of course, with family members, that they have a lot of goals at the beginning of the year or the end of the previous year. And they even write them, they even make visual boards, and they make all the show and everything for what they want. And then, as the year starts advancing and moving through, they start dropping the things because it's too complicated, because they don't know what is happening, but they don't have the energy, or they started too strong and they burn out all of that energy. So all of these mechanisms are within these four steps. You are creating this dissonance loop over and over again. So how do we break it, and what else can we understand about it? Let's see. There is a neurological conflict between the immediate survival, which is your evolutionary primitive brain, and the long-term ambition. So you want to update your brain, you want to evolve, you want to get out of this cycle, but your prefrontal cortex is hijacked. So letting out of this hijack state and enabling long-term planning and ambition is what you are going to develop with these steps. Let's understand first what happens under the survival system, which is the limbic brain. The amygdala, as I mentioned, and I have mentioned previously in other episodes, hijacks approaching significant goals and triggers an error of prediction. So the amygdala perceives unknown success as a threat and flows the system with cortisol and blocking the rational executive function. So with all of these neurotransmitters and all of this cortisol that is being released, you create this hijack in your prefrontal cortex. Then what happens? Well, as you see growth or success as a threat, you start creating this procrastination as a relief. Delaying task is not a time management failure. Even if you acquire all of the apps that help you to be organized and to schedule things, this is just another way to procrastinate, to look for the best tool to be productive. So it is a subconscious strategy to gain immediate emotional relief from the acute stress or growth. Uh, so this is what also happens with people that they call themselves perfectionist, and they literally take forever to release a project or to do something because they are just looking and looking for iteration and procrastinating the release of the project. So now, what happens in the opposite side when you finally break this point? There are executive systems that can be activated. Well, the dorsomedial prefrontal cortex, or DMPFC, tracks the perceived cost of effort. In sabotage states, this region aggressively discounts future rewards if immediate effort feels emotionally painful. What does this mean? Well, this means that when you feel that you need to do some effort tomorrow or in this moment, you discount the future reward that you are going to have because you don't want to make any effort at all. So, this is what happens and how your brain is acting. Now, there is a subgenual anterior cingulate cortex, or SGHCC, and the names doesn't matter, but I want just to give you the specific mechanisms and regions. High volumes here correlate with self-handicapping, which deliberately create obstacles to protect your self-esteem from potential failure. So let me explain this with an example. Let's say that you want to apply to a new job. You have all of this research, you have entered into the website of the new company that you want to apply for, and you prepare yourself, you read everything that they are asking in the job description, you have everything. But suddenly you start having this panic attack or anxiety attack that you are missing something, and you start looking for people that you can probably find that work there so that you can have more information because you are nervous and you start activating these regions and you don't know what the interviewer is going to ask you when you apply for the job. So you want to be really prepared, but you are handicapping yourself because you are creating obstacles. You can't know everything about a company whenever you are going to apply. It's good to plan and it's good to research, but it's not good to go so deep that you develop an anxiety loop and you start sabotaging and creating obstacles that they don't even exist. And this is how the future of anxiety starts being activated. Now, what are the somatic markers that act as a biological brake when the body senses danger? The insula is like an interoceptive radar, and the processes of the internal bodily signal amplifies the physical discomfort, the sudden fatigue, digestive distress, act or as a biological break, warning your brain that change is occurring and that you are probably under a threat. So next, what is happening? And this is so interesting how the body works. Then the sympathetic state, fight or flight, becomes activated and the nervous system attempts to escape the pressure of success, and then you start through acute anxiety, rumination, as I mentioned in the example, or impulsive decision making, you start creating this fight or flight mechanism. Now, what happens next? The dorsal vagal state starts also activating another response, which is the freeze or the shutdown. You feel overwhelmed by the ambitious goal, and the body enters a protective shutdown. This manifests as extreme fatigue, apathy, or physical inability to act, a trapped nervous state, misinterpreting pressure as a mortal threat. So we are not living in that stage of dinosaurs, or you are not being attacked by a shark, but your body feels exactly the same. And all of these mechanisms start creating these body symptoms where you literally can't act and you can't do anything. And this is why people, if these states keep repeating over and over and daily, you will create such a turmoil in your body that you can arrive very easily to episodes of chronic anxiety or a deep depression. Now, let's see how we break these states and what happens internally in our blueprint. Now, what happens in the DNA system? And this is just amazing how we start creating these marks. Trauma and resilience are encoded chemically beyond our lived experiences. So we have, this is the basis of the ancestral lineage. NR3C1 is a gene and a gene for the glucocorticoid receptor, and ancestral trauma can methylate this gene, reducing cortisol receptors. So that means that if you have your system flooded with cortisol, but you don't have receptors, what is going to happen? Well, the cortisol is going to be under your body and it's going to be flooding all of your system, and then you start creating a stress system that cannot efficiently turn off, leaving the individual in a perpetual state of alarm when success feels like a threat. Next, the other gene, FKBP5. You have alterations also in this gene, and this gene dictates the biological capacity to handle high pressure. Epigenetic alterations in this gene increase the vulnerability to depression and PTSD. So this directly fuels and calibrates the automatic sabotage cycles. Look at these two key factors that are being modified within your blueprint, within your DNA. And this is why it's so difficult to clean these epigenetic marks. So what do we have to do? Well, there is an environmental mismatch. The body operates on survival software, which has been designed for the ancestors' environment of scarcity and danger. So this is the primitive evolutionary environment that we all inherited. And some people also inherited more dangerous situations, of course, and they have more of these epigenetic marks that they have to clean. In a modern environment of abundance, this cautious, risk-averse programming manifests as self-sabotage. Next, well, there is a subconscious pool of invisible loyalties, and this is the ancestral lineage interacting in the systemic family contracts. The pillar one of these roots, that I love this image, how it represents the roots of the ancestral lineage. The pillar number one is the guilt of prosperity. If a family system historically lacks the permission for ease, achieving phenomenal success, this generates profound subconscious guilt because you feel that you are betraying your tribe. We sabotage fulfillment to avoid betraying their suffering, but they are not going to suffer. This is what it gets interesting. Now, pillar number two, there is a compensatory sacrifice. The subconscious demands a toll for success. So individuals may suddenly lose money, ruin a relationship, or compromise their health just as their career takes off, ensuring they do not feel superior or to their lineage. So this is what keeps you aligned, let's say, or in the same state as your lineage, as your tribe. And this is why you can't sometimes overcome these ancestral, let's say, blockages. Pillar three, parentification and triangulation. Individuals who serve as emotional anchors for their parents subconsciously believe they have no right to an independent life. And this is the martyr archetype of many, and this applies to older children, which need to take care of their brothers and siblings, and sabotaging personal milestones to remain available for family drama. This is what happens when all of these mechanisms activate and you start creating the perfect environment to not do anything for yourself and not become independent because you feel guilty, because you feel that you are betraying, and because you feel that you need to be available for your parents forever. And that is not healthy, neither for them nor for you. So now we are arriving to the end where I will give you the solutions. Reclaiming agency overrides the biological determinism through neuroplasticity. What is happening here? We have a graphic which shows conscious decision making and then how it grows the prefrontal neural network strength. When you assume responsibility, you start creating a conscious decision making pathway that creates literally a different kind of brain. Now, let's see what happens here. There is a shifting in the locus of control. There is an external locus, which is the learned helplessness, and there is the belief that genetics, fate, or ancestors control outcomes. This reinforces the default mode network and perpetuates sabotage. This is a belief, so let's start understanding what is happening. Internal locus, there is a self-directed plasticity. The conviction that personal actions dictate results immediately deactivates the circuits of learned helplessness. And I'm going to repeat this in easier words. You have an internal system where you can rewire your brain. And this is the language that I want you to understand. You can literally rewire the brain. You can create the conviction that your actions, the small steps continuously will dictate your results. And this is the agency of your life. This will immediately release you from these chains of the ancestral lineage. And this will start creating new highways in your brain where you literally start racing the conscious decision making process, and you start creating self esteem, and you start creating confidence. And then what happens? There is a neurobiological event of responsibility, of course, and you activate the medial PFC activation, the prefrontal cortex, claiming agency stops the brain from seeking external blame, from seeking people to see what they have done to you or why life is happening to you, and all of these victim states. This activates the medial prefrontal cortex, which sends inhibitory projections directly to the amygdala. So this regulates the amygdala, calming the fear system. And then suddenly you don't have fear because you understand that with these steps, that they are just like a recipe for success, you can start creating this momentum and self-confidence, and then you keep doing this over and over again, and you rehearse in your brain these actions by visualizing yourself doing it, and then you have resolved the equation. Now you create updates in the predictive models. What does this mean? Well, taking small responsible actions create positive prediction errors. So proving to the brain that success does not result in a disaster. And this is just like a symphony in your brain that is happening. Why? Because when you start adding the effort, it functions like the compound interest when you save money under a fund or some financial asset. So this is what is going to happen in your brain. The more you repeat these actions, the more you create responsibility within yourself, the easier and the faster you become free. Now, finally, there are evidence-based techniques to update your nervous system's software, and this is like a giveaway for you. Conscious agency will take you to the success level. Automatic sabotage will take you lower and lower into depressive symptoms or anxious panic attacks and PTSD. What happens here, or how can we solve these equations? There is an affect labeling system explicitly naming the physical sensation of fear instantly reduces the amygdala activity by forcing engagement from the rational prefrontal cortex. So when you accept that you are fearful because you don't know if you are capable of um, obtaining the job that you want, and you write it, and probably, and I suggest this to you, write it in third person so that you detach from the emotions. Then you realize that that is not true, that you already have all of the qualifications and you have done the work to deserve this job. Now, cognitive reframing. And these steps will happen almost simultaneously if you start journaling them. Consciously shifting the narrative from success isolates me to success is a tool to elevate my lineage. This actively alters the dopamine associations in the reward system. What does this mean? Well, this means that when you create this conscious reframe of small steps and you shift the narrative from success will make me a, be- a betrayer of my tribe, then you reframe this phrase to success will elevate my lineage and will give freedom to the next generations. And you can have this system healed with your actions and heal the next 7 generations. So this vision and this mindset is the one that is going to allow you to break free from the chains of the past. And then finally, there is an SNA regulation via the micro steps. What does this mean? Breaking ambitious goals into small fragments, even if they seem ridiculous to other people, that it doesn't even matter. Fail, these fragments, they fail to trigger the amygdala's threats detection because they don't feel like a threat, because they feel easy, because they feel that you can make them every day. And this trains the autonomic nervous system, the SNA, to tolerate novelty and visibility. And then you have successfully installed the software, and then you have the steps to just repeat them over and over daily. And the more you repeat them, the easier and the more advanced your pathway starts becoming. The system update is true healing and is not fighting yourself. It is also not fighting your ancestors. It is also not disrespecting them. On the opposite side is giving them the gift of also freeing them from these negative energy loops. It is an active software update that ensures the survival codes of the past that no longer dictate the architecture of your future and the future of your children and your um, nieces and the next 7 generations of your life and of your lineage. So you are cleaning the whole family system and you are cutting off the roots of sabotage. I hope that this episode has motivated as much as it has for me, because reviewing this kind of science just makes me hopeful that everyone that listens to this information will have the opportunity to start developing their own plan, their own blueprint, so that they can break free from sabotage. And remember, I will post a link where you can just acquire the guideline to develop this kind of strategy so that you can break free from sabotage. Thank you very much for listening. And also remember that the only thing that I ask for you is that you subscribe to my channel in YouTube and that you forward or share these episodes with other people so that they can become more, well, they can become freer and they can become more aware and conscious of their own lives, and they heal the future generations. Thank you very much. And also, I encourage you to give me a review in the different platforms of the podcast, in Substack, in Spotify, and in Apple Podcasts. Thank you very much for your time and for your attention. Have a wonderful day. Thank you. Bye.